All right, Nick, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Raiders got an excellent draft pick in this past draft. And it's nice when we think somebody is looking really good and then we get some evidence from a couple different places that corroborate that. Let's get into the first article and we can talk more about it on the other side. This, of course, is from over on Sporting News. Says the Las Vegas Raiders are set to have a few starters up front in 2024, with one of the candidates for a starting role being second round pick and guard Jackson Powers Johnson. Powers Johnson is projected to be the starter, but he won't be handed the job. Instead, JPJ is expected to come compete with veteran guard Cody Whitehair, who was signed in free agency prior to the 2024 NFL Draft. Potentially stacking the deck against the Oregon product in that competition is the fact that Powers Johnson missed significant time due to injury during the offseason program, which is never ideal for the development of a rookie. With Powers Johnson competing for such an important role, he was recently named one of the rookie sleepers to watch during training camp by Sporting News' Vinny Ear. I think this is really great news, Nick, and I think that, it kind of puts into question, will he be able to overcome those injuries? But I think the next article just shows a really great source who thinks that this guy is definitely the real deal. This is, of course, from ESPN. This is from Richie Incognito giving some comments about what he thought about Powers Johnson. Says he carries himself like a badass. He's out there finishing plays. I think he's a great player. I really think that he's going to develop into a solid starter, a great starter. He has the tenacity. He's out there giving great effort each and every play. He has good footwork. He works in the guys' bodies. He knows how to lift defenders off the line of scrimmage. So great kid, athletic kid, hard worker, and I really think the zone game that they'll run next year will fit his skill set. I don't think he could have said anything more about how good he is. I think he covered every aspect. So I'm pretty, optimistic about Richie Incognito's comments. I think this is great for the Raiders. I'm curious what your thoughts are, Nick. But before we get to you, Raiders fans, in the comment section below, we're talking about potentially a new guard for many years to come for this Las Vegas Raiders team. But let us know in the comments section below, who's your favorite Raiders guard of all time? I think there's some really great options floating around. Let us know, though, in the comments below, who is your favorite Raiders guard of all time? And while you're there, check the description below the video to check out one of our recommended books for this summer. It's none other than Playmakers by Mike Florio. I think Nick has it right here. Great book, great read, breaks down the game of the NFL or the league in general very nicely, all the ins and outs. Good read if you love the NFL and you want something to read this summer. So check our Amazon affiliate link in the description below the video. It helps us out. It costs you no extra to do it. So check it out if you want to get this book. But Nick, what are your thoughts on Jackson Powers Johnson?
Obviously, when you get any sort of reports from media pundits saying a rookie's a sleeper or he's doing good things, it's all positive, right? Of course, there's no denying that. And of course, when you hear comments from, coaches and teammates, which we've heard a little bit about when it comes to Powers Johnson as well, that's also really good. But I am really excited when former all-time great kind of players, I know Incognito may not be all-time great, but he was a nasty physical presence, sort of the prototypical old school offensive lineman when he comes out and gives you praise, folks, that is a huge indication because we know Richie Incognito, whether you love him or hate him, he's going to call it exactly as he sees it. He is literally going to pull no punches. He is going to sit there and say, hey, listen, if you're a tough dude, I'm going to call you a tough dude. If I think you're a wimp, I'm going to call you a wimp and maybe some other not so nice names as well, right? That's who Richie Incognito has been his entire career when it comes to his involvement with football. And folks, the fact that he's come out and saying these things about Powers Johnson is a great sign because we talk about the Raiders culturally this offseason, shifting back to their old school mentality, physical power over, just a culture of players taking ownership, just being beasts, just being badasses, just being physical presences, whether it's on the defensive side, whether it's on the offensive side, whether it's in the trenches, right? This is a team that is rejiggering itself as an old school football team. And look, we talk about Powers Johnson coming out of Oregon, and that wasn't one of the things that a lot of people thought of. They thought of, okay, he's an athletic guy. He can do a lot of things in space. Has a lot of experience, and all that is really true. But the fact that a guy like Incognito is like, hey, this dude's also a tough dude. He's a beast. He's a physical presence. He's going to be just a really just a classic old school, physically dominant, kind of bouncer kind of mentality interior offensive lineman. That is awesome to hear because if you have enough of those guys on your offensive line, it just kind of resets the entire culture of your offense. It gives you an attitude, it gives you a demeanor. And we know the Raiders historically, they're at their best when they have that attitude. And we know this is a young team. We know there's a lot to look forward to. Aiden O'Connell, right? Is he the guy of the future? Is he not? Brock Bowers, he's going to be a weapon when paired with Michael Mayer. We know there's a lot of young wide receivers. Really excited about Trey Tucker, Devontae Adams, of course, squashing the ridiculous rumors about potentially being traded. So we know there's a lot of young talent across the team, but I think Powers Johnson is the name to really focus on. I think he's a culture changer on the offensive line, on top of being a very physically gifted player.
Yeah, Nick, and when you look at this offensive line, if Powers Johnson pans out the way that we're expecting him to, this is really good for this Raiders offensive unit. I think they're going to have four really solid offensive linemen at this point. Then Parham being the fifth, who I think he has the potential. He's still very young coming into his third year in the NFL. There's still a lot to learn. Like we've done a lot of stories lately. Guys don't necessarily change overnight. It takes a little bit of time. And just because they're one way when they come into the league doesn't mean they can't change. So I think this sets up really nicely for this Raiders team. And I think that you get this young nucleus on the offensive line because you look, Powers Johnson, first year guy. You look at Parham. He's a guy coming into his third year. This is next to him, Munford Jr., another guy coming into his third year. There's three guys on their rookie contracts potentially starting on your offensive line. That speaks pretty good for the next couple of years. And I think you got some continuity building with those guys. You can have a really strong core unit for this offensive line for the next couple of years to come. And if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm excited about that because in the past, hasn't necessarily been the biggest of strengths, but now I think it could be one of the strongest points on this offense.
And that's a really great point because when you talk about what's going to happen at quarterback, can Aiden O'Connell develop? I tell you what, if you have a weak offensive line, if you have an offensive line that's leaky, that you can't run the football behind, it makes it really hard to play quarterback, whether you're Aiden O'Connell, whether you're Tom Brady, right? But having a strong offensive line, being really good at running the football, obviously protecting the quarterback, will obviously make this young quarterback's job a lot easier. So it's not just the fact that the Raiders are turning a pass weakness into a strength with the elevation of a guy like JPJ here, but it's the fact that it will also help other key positions, namely quarterback.